Hi everyone, my name is Carly Bell and I love to do machine embroidery tutorials, and today we are going to continue for our sew along for the Kimberbell Main Street Celebration bench pillow that we have been working on for the past couple of weeks, trying to knock all these blocks out before 4th of July so I can actually enjoy my project that we're making in my house before the holiday that it's ideally made for. So today we are working on block number 5, which is titled the Swing and Quilt. And this one should be fairly easy, like our block that we did last time, block number 4. And it has a tree just like the first block, and the welcome and then the fireworks and a little tire swing hanging from it. The quilt bit is actually an embellishment that we will add later, and that's the last step of our project. So I think the stitch out today should be rather quick, like our last block was. So let's go ahead and get started. Remember, if you need any information about the sew along, there is a link to my website directly below this video that gives you all the info for the sew along, including links to all the supplies that we're using, the designs, and also all of the videos for the sew along series, including a link to the playlist where you can watch all of them at one time. So on my website, carlybell.com, and you can either search for the sew along there or use that direct link in the description box below. All right, and as we discussed in previous videos, we are going to do everything from this point on in a 6x10 hoop, with slightly tweaking that background quilting design so that it fits. So let's go over to the craft table now and hoop our stabilizer and get everything ready. So I got a new piece of cotton muslin, and I like to cut mine in strips so that I'm not worrying about pre-cutting pieces that fit my hoop every time. I just do a strip and then cut off what I'm not using. Let's tighten this up. Okay, I got my envelope for this block with my background fabric, my batting, and all the pieces for the bits of applique. So we're going to start just by first we have to make the design in Embrilliance. We'll put it together, and then we'll go over to the machine and start stitching everything out. So let's jump into Embrilliance. Let's see, I still have the last block we did pulled up. Let's go back to my embroidery designs, Kimberbell, and make this a little bigger. And where are we? Main Street Celebration. Okay, and today I'm going to do things a little differently with merging the files, because I actually got an email last night saying, someone saying they're watching the video series and they see how I drag and drop things into Embrilliance, but that is not working for them on their computer. So I'm going to show you the other way that you can merge designs today. So first, I'm going to open up the 6x8 background quilting. Now, if you remember in my last video, I saved a working file of the background quilting where after I had adjusted it to make that basting stitch fit in my 6x10 hoop. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, you'll see that in block number 2, and then we did it again in block number 4. So you can reference back to those videos. But here is my background quilting. So I'm going to double click that, and it should have opened up in a new tab, but no, instead it merged. Let's try that again. No, it keeps adding to here. All right, let's close this guy out. That usually doesn't happen. When I double click, it opens up a new tab. Okay, so we have done that. Now let's go and find the embroidery design for today. Let me see if my computer's just acting wonky, because normally when I double click something, it opens it up in a new tab. Let's go and find, here's the Swing and Quilt. Let me double click. Yeah, see here, see how it opened up in a new file? That's what normally happens. Maybe because it was a working file. I don't know. Okay, But let's say, all right, you have your background quilting design opened in Embrilliance, and now you need to merge this design into it, and that whole drag and drop thing that I usually do is not working for you. This is another way that we can merge embroidery files, and that is by going to this icon right here that says merge a stitch file. This should come with your Embrilliance Essentials tools. If you are working in the free version of Embrilliance, which is Embrilliance Express, that one only really lets you do lettering designs. It does not let you merge in other embroidery designs and mix things together. You have to have at least Essentials to be able to do this, but you should see this icon. We're going to click that. That is just going to open up a window just like when I open up Finder or Windows Explorer on your computer. It's going to open up a window and allow you to navigate to where that embroidery file is saved. So I have all my embroidery designs in an embroidery design folder. Then within there, I have a Kimberbell folder. And then if I click on Kimberbell, then you see all my folders in there. And then I have a Main Street Celebration folder. And then within there, let's see, these are all the embroidery designs. If I click on PES, now I see everything that I saw. Oops, we got to go back now. Now we should see everything that I saw when I was just on my regular computer files looking through things. Where are we at? Main Street Celebration, here, embroidery files, click your format. You see everything I'm clicking are things that drop down here. And now that we're on this screen, that's the same here. So then I can just click the Swing and Quilt design. And right here, there's an import button. I can click import. And now it has added the Swing and Quilt design on top of my background fabric since I added it second. So hopefully that helps those of you that are not having luck with the ability of dragging and dropping. I don't know if that's a Mac versus PC thing. I'll have to go try it on my Windows computer. I thought I can do that. I thought I tried that on my Windows computer when I was doing my Embrilliance course trainings, but I'll go double check. But your other option is always to click merge file. It's going to look a little different maybe than your normal Windows Explorer, but basically you're just navigating to where your embroidery file is saved. And then once you find that folder, clicking it, showing the contents of that folder, selecting it, and then hit import. Okay. So now that we have the background quilting and the embroidery design, the other little adjustments that I personally make is I delete the first two steps of the embroidery design because those are placement and basting stitches that I do not need because I'm doing my background quilting. So I'm just hitting delete on my keyboard. And then I've already adjusted my background quilting to only have a placement stitch for the batting and the basting stitch for the background fabric. So I deleted two steps in the normal background quilting design. All right, so this is now ready to go to save. Y'all heard me say before, I have issues with sending my designs through Wi-Fi when I have my computer plugged into my modem. So I'm going to go to save as stitch file. I'm going to click, oh, my USB is not there. Let me go unplug it and plug it in again. Okay, plugged it in again. And now I see it. There we go. No name. And I am going to name it. I'm going to click this to just make it a little bit easier. Change this to what? We're on 5 now, right? I think I named it wrong the last time. The pickup truck's actually 3. 5 Swing Quilt. And it's a PES format because I'm putting it on a brother. Save. And now I can go back here and select my no name and eject it. This is my USB drive. So now it's removed safely from my computer. And now I can go to my machine and plug my USB stick in. Let's see. I have the camera where you can't see the screen, but let's do this for a second. All right. So I just turned my machine on, so it's got to do its little calibration thing. I'm going to plug in my USB stick, hit embroidery, hit my USB button, scroll through and find my design, which is this one right here. And OK, and set, and embroider. So it is ready to go now. So I am going to load my hoop. And what color I have on there? Blue right now. I'll just leave that alone. Leave the blue on there. Lower my presser foot and stitch. And that's going to be my placement stitch telling me where to put my batting. All right, we are done with that placement stitch. So we can take the hoop off the machine now, and I'm going to go add the batting and the background fabric. So there's my placement stitch. Get my glue stick. Remember, I cut my batting to be the same size as the placement stitch, so it fits right in there. And so I just got to have some kind of adhesive to help hold it into place. Where's my trash? There we go. So just pushing that down. And then I'll also grab my background fabric and just kind of eyeball centering it onto my batting. And excuse all the noise. They just had a big thunder clap, and my dog is not happy about it. So if you hear him barking in the background, he is very mad at the weather currently. Okay, so as we've been doing in the past videos, I'm now going to load my water-soluble thread for the basting stitch that will then later get removed before we trim. I've been contemplating not doing this step because it is like I really have to soak the area well to get this thread to dissolve. So I'm still going to stitch it with it, but when we get to the part where I normally soak it, I think I'm going to try just cutting it and see how easily it comes off. I'm thinking just the beginning knot is going to give me a little trouble. Maybe I just need to wet that area. But once I cut the bobbin and the top thread, I might be able just to pull it off. So we're gonna see about that. It's something I'm gonna test today. But we're gonna do that basting stitch. Okay, that basting stitch is done. So now I'm loading on thread. I can't get my thread out. I'm loading my white thread now, and that's for the actual background quilting design. All right, we are now done with all of the background quilting, and the first step of the actual design is the tree trunk. So I'm loading this kind of goldy tan color. This is the same we used in the first welcome block. And I will load this thread and stitch out the tree trunk. All right, now the next step is the placement stitch for the leaves on the tree. And after going through this process on the welcome block, I thought it's kind of pointless to stitch all the leaves placements. We know that the felt is going to go over the tree, and we have a big enough piece of felt cut so that I'm just going to totally skip this step. And let me grab my felt, and I'm double checking my welcome block. Yeah, I use the darker green as the outline. So literally we're just going to add our felt on top of our tree. We have a big enough piece cut, it shouldn't be any problem. And I'm going to load my dark green thread. And then on my machine, I'm going to click the needle plus minus button, and I'm going to skip down to the next step. So if you have a spool plus and a spool minus, that's going to be how to move around steps. On my Stellaire, I have these arrows up and down. That moves around steps. So I'm just going to totally skip that placement stitch and lower my presser foot and start stitching. Oop. I forgot to actually thread the needle. That would help. Thread needle. And I'm already on the screen with the things. I'm going to back up to the beginning of this step and start again. All right, now for the tedious part. Cutting out all of these leaves. Lucky for you, there's a fast forward option on my video camera. Now, if we could only figure out how to do it that quickly in real life, that would be amazing. So we are done with trimming all the cute little leaves on the tree. And I think next is going to be the applique for the little tire swing. So we'll go back to the machine. See, I think I need to load black thread. And the first is going to be the placement stitch for the felt tree leaves where it's a raw edge being finished stitch. All right, I see my placement stitch for the tire, and now I'm just going to place my black faux leather on top and let that tack down, and then we will trim it. Okay, I am looking at the example picture, and they did actually cut out this inner circle within the tire. Now, I'm gonna tell you now, if this freaks you out, I think it's still gonna look good if you don't cut out that little inner hole. But what I do is I poke my scissors in there. Now with faux leather, it's a little bit harder than fabric, but I'm kind of like trying to poke and pull up and see that I'm getting just the leather and not my background fabric underneath. And I'll do a little snip to test it. And when I open that up, I want to see my blue underneath, and I do. I see it. And now it's just carefully getting your scissors under the faux leather and trimming it, exposing that blue background fabric underneath. So it's a little tricky. Whenever I do applique letters, and it's like a letter A or a B, you know, where there's a hole in the middle in the trim, it can get a little tedious, a little hard, but when you practice, it helps you to get better. But that's my little method is I kind of poke a hole and pull up and cross my fingers that I'm only pulling up what's on top and not piercing and cutting the fabric that's underneath. So that is the little tire. And I think next is some detail on the tire, which they're doing in gray, and then the actual rope we're going to do in a yellow color. Okay, so it's done with the gray detail. There is a jump stitch that I am trimming. And now I'm going to load the yellow thread and stitch the rope. Okay, so that's it for all the bottom portion of the design. The rest is going to be the little applique rocket and fireworks. If you're doing your 5x7 hooping, this is the part where you would stitch your registration marks and then rehoop and stitch this upper part. So the first step is the little fuse for the applique rocket, which I'm doing in red. So I will load white thread and then the part red thread, and then the part after that is the little kind of star at the end of the fuse, and then I'm gonna do that in white. Okay, the next part is going to be the applique bits for the rocket, and I'm using for the bottom part the white glitter with red thread. So first is the place. Oh, I forgot to thread the needle. I always do this. Back up, thread the needle. All right, let's back up to the beginning of this step. Okay, try that again. So this is a placement stitch for the bottom part of the rocket. I'm still using my first pieces of glitter from the welcome block. But if you're using a new piece, remember to tear that clear carrier sheet off. Let's see. Make sure that's in a good spot, and we will tack this down. All right, normally I bring this over to my craft table to trim, but I'm going to just trim it very quickly while I'm still at my machine, since it's pretty easy to trim. So that's done. There were some jump stitches that I didn't like. Let me trim those. Okay, so now I'm going to load my white thread and do the top part of the rocket with red glitter. And first will be the placement stitch and then the actual tack down. And then I will take it off of the machine, go to the craft table, trim it, and then press this with an iron. All right, so here is our little rocket. I think I got my most use out of this one piece of applique glitter by getting 4 little rockets from them. And so that is trimmed and done. And now you can use any kind of material for a pressing cloth and activate the adhesive on the back of these applique glitter pieces. So that is good. And so then all we have left now is to stitch the fireworks, which I'm going to do in metallic thread. And then the last step is the same as all the other blocks with the blue eyelets for the fairy lights. So I'm going to load now my red metallic thread and watch my machine, because sometimes I do have trouble with it. I saw someone wrote, and it is not. I have to say, I think my multi-needle free arm machines handle my metallic thread better than my flatbed machine. But right now, the only issue I'm having with the Stellaire is when it cuts and jumps. The trimming, for some reason, is short. So sometimes when it goes, it stitches its part, it cuts, it moves and goes to stitch the next part, it loses, the needle becomes unthreaded. See, I don't know what just happened there, but I think the thread broke there. Let's try that again. And I have a spool cap on my metallic thread. I'm using my vertical thread stand. It probably would like it better if I used my the thread stand that's not hooked on my machine, and moved it like further away to give the threads some ability to unravel before it enters the machine. I think that's one suggestion. We could also slow down the machine so that it's not stitching so fast, but it's been doing rather well. Not perfect, but well enough for me to not attempt those things, but just kind of go with the flow and watch it. Okay, now we are moving on to the next color, which in my case is silver, or you can use white. And now I'm loading the gold metallic thread for the last bit of the fireworks. There's only one little gold bit for this particular design. So now I'm loading the blue for the last step, which is the little eyelet holes for the fairy lights. Something doesn't sound right. So let me cut. Oh yeah, I hear not happiness happening down there. Oop, sounds like there's a nest underneath. Oh yeah. See, I heard did not sound right. And look what happened here. We got a bunch of nesting. Big old knot. Gonna try and just cut. Let me get my better scissors. And cut all that off and pull it out. And restart that particular eyelet. I'm also going to check in my bobbin case to see. Usually there's a little stray thread or lint in the bobbin case that causes this to happen. Y'all can see that all that nesting happened there. And I'm just going to try and pull it out from the top. Should pull out easily since I cut all the bottom. You should just drag your fingernail or your scissor. Yeah, see all that came off. Let's get as much out as you can. Check the back. Let's get as much of this out as we can. I'm trying to be careful right here too because there's some of the background quilting stitching here and I don't want to pull that out. I'm just trying to pull out these blue threads from that eyelet design. Okay, and one way that helps make sure you get everything and that you don't get more little pieces stuck in your machine is to use a lint roller to pick up all those little stray pieces of thread. But I think I've got almost all of it. There's just a little bit left there. But now I'm going to go check the bobbin case of my machine and see if something happened down in there. And my machine's probably going to get mad at me because technically I'm not supposed to remove this when the machine is on. But for the Stellaire, for my older machines, you could just like use your finger and pull this towards you. For my Stellaire, I have to put the little screwdriver tool in and bend it one way or the other. Yeah, it just fussed me. It says turn the machine off if you're removing the needle plate. I don't want to. I just want to clean this up and go right back where I was. Okay, so I'm going to take the bobbin case out, and there is a lot of dust down there. Let's see if y'all can see this. I'm going to do my fancy camera work here. Y'all see all that dust happening here? Yeah, that's what we're going to clean, and I'm probably going to clean down in here too. And my favorite tool for cleaning my bobbin case is something I have in my craft room because of my kids, and it is a pipe cleaner. And of course, the pipe cleaner I had by my desk is not there anymore. That means Elise stole it. She loves pipe cleaners. She makes bracelets with them, which is fun, but then a little dangerous because they got those metal pieces in them. All right, here's one. Well, here's one of her bracelets. Let me show y'all. This is one of Elise's pipe cleaner bracelets. They have these metal pieces in it, so they're not really great as bracelets, but they're fun for little craft projects. But what I've seen at some stores being sold is almost like a straw with a piece of pipe cleaner looped at the end. Actually, this was one. You can get like a coffee stirrer straw, like one of those skinnier ones, or a regular straw, and basically loop the pipe cleaner, cut it right here, and then stick that in the straw, and it works as a little tool. But instead of going through all that, I just use the whole pipe cleaner. So you see all that dust. I don't know if it's focusing. All that dust on there. Yeah, this was long overdue. So I'll either just pull the dust off and keep going in, or I'll just use I'll work my way down the pipe cleaner to a new clean section. And I'll make a new little loop. And I am also going to stick it down in these sections. So, it sucks this happened on my last step, but at least it has made me clean my machine. And y'all will be able to see how I clean my machine. Getting in between the feed dogs. I usually just kind of pass it over like a duster. It grabs a lot. Okay, now once I am done, and because it has been a while since I've done this, and I know some people are going to fuss me, I did ask a service technician at a quilt shop about this, and this was his recommendation. He said every 3 times you end up changing your bobbin, or every 3 months, you can put a drop of sewing machine oil down in your flatbed machine. Just 1 drop right on what's called the bearing. And that will help, like a maintenance thing for your machine. Now, a lot of people will say, no, you're not supposed to oil flatbed machines. I do. It's fine. I'm also going to use my pipe cleaner to clean out this part of the bobbin case. Get that all cleaned up. And there's, on my machine, depending on yours, there's a white dot here and a white dot here. That's how I know I have it in correctly. Sometimes you really gotta play with it and make sure it's in good. Seems snug. Okay, and then when that's done, I'll put my needle plate back on and reload my bobbin. and put that back on. Okay, now I'm ready to put my hoop back on. And I am going to back up stitches until I get to the first stitch of that eyelet by using that needle plus minus button. I'm navigating backwards. Okay, I've moved to that eyelet. Now I'm going to move ahead one stitch until I get, boom, right there. That's where I want to be. Is my needle still threaded? Yes. Lower my presser foot. And let's try this again. And meanwhile, I'm going to go get my tiny vacuum and suck up all this mess that I have made in front of my machine with dust. So this is my little tiny vacuum. Let me zoom out so you can see my mess now. I have a mess all down here from pulling out the dust out there. So I'm going to use this and get all of that off my craft table. All the little pieces of thread I got everywhere. This comes in handy with cleaning. You can also try and stick that in your bobbin case, but the point is too big, so it doesn't pull out the dust out of the case very well. I've seen some though that are little and have little attachments that end up being like a tube, and you can stick those into the bobbin area just like I did the pipe cleaner and suck all the dust out. But both of these work well with cleaning up, maintaining your machine. All right, we are all done stitching this block, which is the swing and the quilt, but remember the quilt is going to be added later as an embellishment. So now let's test my new thing that I want to try where I don't use water, and see if I could just get this basting stitch off easier than having to soak the whole thing. Although soaking the whole thing doesn't hurt because it helps with ironing and pressing it and get steam, kind of steaming it. So I'm just going to cut that, and I'm going to cut it on this side too and see how easily. I think I have to cut a few times, like cut here, cut here. Okay, so I went around and cut. I do want to make sure that I am cutting this particular basting stitch and not my other basting stitch. So just be aware of where you're cutting. But it's just as much work as wetting it all down. So it's to each their own. If you don't have the water soluble thread, then this is your only choice. But yeah, I think either way, it takes a little bit of work. Like I was saying before, the only place I could see it being a little bit more of a pain in the butt to get out would be where the first knot, and then actually the last knot comes together. That might be a little difficult to get out. But yeah, I think I'll stick with my water. I think I do like that better, even though it takes some time to really make it all dissolve good. Because then I don't have to deal with all these little pieces of thread. I have to get my vacuum out again. Okay, now that we have the basting stitch out, we can take this out the hoop for one. And I'm just going to press the sides mostly. Be wary of my metallic thread, my felt, my embroidery leather. Not going to pass my iron on there, but just give it a good press on the edges where you can to help with trimming. Okay, and once that is done, you're ready to trim. So I have my rotating cutting mat. I'm going to go ahead and trim this extra stabilizer off. So that I can use that for my next block. And I need my orange pop ruler, which I think I picked up yesterday. So I need to get it back out of my zipper case. Loving my bag, by the way, that I got as a birthday present for myself. But it helps keep all of my clear blue tiles and orange pop rulers together in one nice organized space. And I probably just need to leave that orange pop ruler out because I've been using it every day. Trying to finish up this project. So now that I have it, and I think I'm going to continue the last few times I've done it from the top versus the back. Let's see. You need to be a 1/4 inch, like the bottom of your tree trunk, 1/4 inch from your bottom of your orange pop ruler. And that's it, about right there. I'll do it on the back. And I'm eyeballing the sides here. They're about a 1/4 inch as well. Great. That all looks good. Let's go there. Make sure I don't have nothing in my way of rotating mat. And we're going to start on the left side. Okay, let's see if I did a good job getting my corners. Yay! And we are now done with the swing and quilt block, even though we don't have a quilt yet. All right, so that is it for today's video lesson for the Sew Along Celebrations bench pillow. This is what, block number 5, so we only have 2 more left. Yay! But before we move on to block 6, in my next tutorial, I think I'm going to take a break from making blocks and go and make all of the in the hoop embellishments that are needed for this bench pillow. One of them we are going to need for block number 6, which is what, the farmhouse, to some cute little pennants. So I figured let's get together in our next video and make all those embellishments, get them done. We are going to combine them into one hoop so that it will make it stitch out a little faster. And then after that, we'll pick up where we left off and move on to block number 6, 7. Then we'll put the borders together and quilt them. Then we'll put the pillow together. And then the last step is add the embellishments. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget, Everything for this sew along can be found on my website, carlybell.com, and you can see all the tools and supplies that I use for this sew along with all of the video tutorials, and you can see them in order in case you missed any. That's it for today. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see y'all next time. Bye, guys.